we have my boy EasyMac and his wife, his lovely wife, Whitney, here with us. Please, welcome. I'm glad to have you guys. Thank you so much for accepting this, and I appreciate you guys in your time. And F3, here we go. Hi, welcome. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you guys had a Thanksgiving that was really good. You guys got plenty of food and stuff like that.
Busy.
Tons of food.
Yeah.
Nice.
We had Thanksgiving Day. We had 65 people. Was that the count?
Yeah.
65
like
people. Holy crap, man! Like, were they all friends too, or just family?
Family.
Oh, that's just my dad's side.
Just your dad's side. Holy crap!
And it wasn't even everybody, was it?
No, it was not.
Okay. All right. So I know, Whitney, you're dealing with some medical stuff right now. So I want to kind of jump real quick to that. I don't want to really put too much pressure or work you too hard with these questions. I know talking is going to be a little difficult for you, and I'm not going to explain why. I mean, if you feel that you need to do that, that's fine. You don't have to. The community's fine. They understand. They get it. So let's. So I'm Dominator Gaming. Whitney, I don't know if you've seen my streams. I know EasyMac, you've been in here a couple times. But I'm a veteran. I also play FPS games, Warzone, stuff like that. But recently, I started really getting into opening up my streams for these podcasts to talk about mental health and suicide awareness, because that's kind of what I do on the Army side. I go around talking to soldiers, because right now we have a lot of soldiers that have mental health issues with PTSD, combat-related issues. Suicide happens. They get out of the Army. They don't have a job. They don't have stuff. They don't really have things going on. And so they go into a deep depression, and a lot of times they feel like they don't have anyone that can help assist them with whatever's going on. And so as a veteran, obviously that kind of holds close to home for me. And so I actually opened it up to my stream, and we started doing these DomCasts. So you guys remember episode number 5, but the first married couple we've had on the podcast so far. And it's actually getting a lot of good reach. It's getting a lot of good notice. And we've had really great guests on it so far, and good conversations. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about you guys. EasyMac, if you want, go ahead and introduce you and your wife, and how you, or what do you do for your streams and stuff like that.
Yeah, so my name is EasyMac, or Big Mac, or Ben. It's my real name, my fake name. I don't know.
Your government name.
my government name, that one. Yeah, exactly. This is Whitney, my wife, and the star of the stream.
That's really why we got him out here. I'm just kidding.
Chat says time and again that they like her more than me.
Yeah.
So,
it's not true.
Oh, whatever. I am, like I was all talking about in chat with Miss Pikachu. I am a Pokemon streamer. It took me about a year and a bit to fully listen to Whitney, who's been telling me to do this since day one, but to settle down on Pokemon. But I think besides that, I've streamed everything under the sun until we started doing Pokemon.
Yeah, where did you start streaming on?
I started on Facebook, and so that's how I initially met you. Through Facebook and Juju.
Yeah, Pipeline as well.
Yeah, and Pipeline. Yes, that's right, and Pipeline. Yep. So that's how I met you. Then it's recently switched over to Kick in April, May, I think, kind of during the boom.
So let's move over to your guys' story, right? So I want to hear more about this. I want to get to know you guys a little bit better. I read it on Facebook, and I'm sure there's some pieces that are missing. I think you kind of hit just the main points on what you guys went through over the recent years. And so, I think this is how you became a content creator in the first place, right?
Yep.
So go ahead and, if you guys want to talk about it, I don't know if you want Whitney to go first through her experiences and then through yours, or...
Yeah, I can totally do that. I'll just be completely honest. I have always wanted to be a mom. That was kind of like my biggest goal in life. And I've always had this dream. I don't know if you can really tell, but I have blue eyes. And before Ben got dreads, he had curly hair. And so I was just like, I will always have this like really adorable blue-eyed, curly-haired little girl. And when it kind of took me a while to get pregnant. We got married end of 2018. I got pregnant kind of towards the end of 2019. And I was just beyond excited. And that excitement was very short-lived. They told us that certain levels that you're supposed to have were going down. So my hormonal levels weren't increasing like they should have been. And so they said, you're probably going to miscarry. Whole crazy experience where I called the doctor multiple times. No one answered any of my phone calls.
That's a story in of itself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
ended up passing the baby on my own. And, you know, that was really hard. But in that moment, I learned this actually happens in 1 in 4 pregnancies. And I had no idea about that. I don't know. Maybe
Like
it's an
miscarriages in
innocent
general, or just like what you're going through?
miscarriages in general.
Oh,
1
wow.
in 4.
Wow.
And so
That's a high rate.
I pretty much lived in this, I don't know, innocent world where I was like, yeah, you get pregnant, you have a baby, you have the best life ever, and
Yeah.
and
That's the downfall of like, you know, falling in love with Disney stories and stuff like that, you know?
yeah, exactly. But then fast forward, I was in my bachelor's degree, and we found out that we were pregnant again towards the end of 2019. So that time I got pregnant faster. But in 2020, when the pandemic hit, the day that everything shut down, I ended up having just these really bad cramps, really bad pain. I had never known what contractions felt like. I'm
Right.
a first time mom. And so
She was at 23 weeks, 24,
yeah, around there.
23, 24 weeks.
And so I'm just like trying to do whatever I can to calm myself down. I'm doing laps around our house, getting ready to like just take a bath and try and calm down. And then I called my mom kind of on a whim, and she was like, something is not right. You need to go to the hospital right now.
Right.
Drove to the ER. I'm screaming at this point. poor Meg.
We actually wonder if she was in so much pain that she actually had a seizure on the drive to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Or something.
Or something. We had wondered because of some of the symptoms that were happening.
But so I'm screaming. They put me in a wheelchair, and they start to ask me the COVID questions.
Oh my gosh.
If I had traveled
Right.
outside the country in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Things like that. But yeah, luckily I was able to get back. They push Mac out. They don't let him come back with me. So I'm back in the ER by myself in this rinky-dink town
in Virginia.
I kind of feel what you're paying there being alone, because like when my kid got, it's not in a sense of like what you're going through, but like the medical part of it during COVID, it was insane because my son got bit by a dog in 2020 and he had to have 26 stitches on his face. And when I got there, they were only allowed me and him to go in there. My wife had to sit in the truck waiting for updates, and you know, cell phone reception in hospitals sucks. So yeah, I mean, I can.
of course, right?
My wife has the same feelings as what Ben had to feel when he had to sit out there and wait for you to get done, and while I'm in there like by myself trying to, you know, calm all it down, and you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a tough time.
Yeah.
That was the crazy part, is they just wheeled her back to get her set up and stuff, and I didn't realize that they weren't letting people back, and so I just thought, so like, yeah, come up and fill out the paperwork. I was like, great, you know, that's basic stuff. I've been in the hospital before. Fill out everything, do the insurance crap and all of that, and so then we get done. I was like, okay, like where's my wife?
Right.
You know, and the waiting room wasn't even open because of COVID. This is literally the week that the country shut down. You know, school was canceled across the whole. I mean, just everything was. It was a ghost town everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so the waiting room in the hospital wasn't even open, and so they actually just sent me back out of the parking lot of the car.
Yeah. That's what they did. They wouldn't even let my wife in at all. It was just like, which one was going to go in back there with him? And I was like, well, I might as well do it because I'm probably stronger. I don't know what's going to happen as far as like, you know, because he was only 5 or 6 at the time, and so let's just say he like 6 of us couldn't hold him down when they were getting his stitches in. Like, it was insane. So luckily I went in there for her, but yeah, my wife was like told that basically you got to go wait in the truck. So yeah, it's insane because it was, like I said, October 2020, so it was already 6 months after it all shut down and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely get the feeling of that, and it's frustrating to know that you have a loved one not knowing what's going on, not knowing what they're doing, and you know, not helping her make a decision that she probably needed your help with, you know, and that kind of causes a lot of stress and, you know, mental anxiety as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely did. Well, it got to a point where I just screamed louder. Told them to go get Ben, and so they brought him in, and they were like, look, we're just not equipped for you and for what's going on. So we're gonna go ahead and try and life flight you to a hospital nearby. But the helicopter was too small for Ben to ride. So they said, start driving and we're going to life flight her.
How far was the hospital?
It was a 45-minute drive.
45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic.
Yeah.
Dang. And it was like a 10-minute flight for you.
Yeah.
And so they tell him to go. He goes. They try and switch me over to a different gurney to head out the door, and they tell me, "Hey, you've got to stop pushing. He's coming." And I'm like, "Okay."
You don't tell
Wow.
a woman who's giving birth to stop pushing.
Wait,
I
they told you
mean,
to, they told you to
I-
stop pushing?
They told me to stop pushing,
Oh yeah. Oh,
and I was like, "My body
is
can
naturally telling you to do it. Yeah.
do what it does."
Well, and that's what my mom joked about. She's like, yeah, they know you can't do anything, but they're like supposed to say that.
Well, I think it's one of those things where even though your body's kind of going into overdrive and auto start and stuff like that, like it's like your mentality, like when they're telling you to stop pushing, maybe that'll help you relax a little bit to kind of help your body and your nervous system kind of relax a little bit too. Which, depending on how the tone was, it probably didn't help at all.
No, not
No.
not quite as much.
No.
But anyways, fast forward, I end up giving birth in that emergency room.
I barely made it back.
Ben had been able to flip around and come back, and we were able to meet our beautiful boy Zane, and he lived for about half an hour, and they came to me and said, "Hey, his heart rate is quickly declining. What do you want to do? We can try and transport him to this NICU that's an hour away, and he'll probably die in transport, or you can hold him." No one should ever have to make that decision, but we decided to go ahead and hold him, and that was a really special experience. I could just feel his heartbeat on me, and so he ended up passing away with us holding him, and we got in touch with this amazing funeral home that they will cremate. Oh, okay. I guess he's gonna go grab him.
The urn.
They'll cremate children for you for free.
Oh wow, that's
Um,
awesome.
and yeah, and put them into a bear that you can carry with you.
Oh wow.
So very, very grateful that home that they were willing to do that for us.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that there's services like that out there. That's unfortunate for you guys. I couldn't even imagine that. It's man. I applaud you guys, like I said, for coming on here and being able to speak this and what you guys have had to endure. And this is not even the last part of your story either. This is still just the middle of it. So, and then you said this. You said Zane was you're pregnant with Zane for 23, 24 weeks. So he was really premature.
Mhm.
And man, I'm so sorry, guys. That's what the positive side you have the Bears with a piece of him in there, or his whole split between the cremation, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we're very grateful. We get to carry him around. If you ever see this bear on any of our social medias, it's Zane, and we take him everywhere with us.
That's awesome.
And he's been on a number of adventures.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I recently, my grandma just recently passed away in July, so I have her urn's actually up there next to the Pikachu in the back. If it's kind of blurry, but you can't really see it. But she's kind of hidden up there. But I have her with me, through all my streams, and she was always a big supportive member of me in what I've done through my career as a veteran and my streams and stuff too. So let's keep going. Thank you so much for this. You guys are really strong, and being able to do this. And this was you said 2020.
Yeah, this was 2020.
Yep.
This was
So 3 years ago.
March. This was end of March of 2020. So
and after you have 2 losses, they will test you for autoimmune disorders. And so that's how we ended up finding out that, well, what we originally thought is I had lupus. That's been still developing. But so we found out about that. So then I was doing different things to try and take care of that to the best of my ability with the knowledge I had. And then in end of oh my goodness, brain. What year is it? 2021? No. Oh my goodness. Reagan. I would have been pregnant
2022.
2022. Yeah, that was
Last year was the start of your program.
yeah. Yes. Okay. My brain. I'm sorry. It's only half working.
So I guess it would have been you would have gone pregnant in 2021.
Yes.
And then
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Because it was fall. It was right as you started your masters.
Yeah. Okay.
Did he just say we were getting pregnant?
Look, everything's a we. Okay.
No, hey, I'm just saying it's a typical guy thing to say. I would say the same thing. It's okay. I just thought it was funny. I thought I was the only guy that said that.
But yes. So I was set to give birth to Reagan last year in 2022, and we had made it 34 weeks. We learned that I'm sorry, this is TMI. My uterus, where most people have like a circle, mine's more of like an oven mitt, and it had a septum down the middle. So that caused difficulties for him to be able to grow. So I would get progesterone shots. If anyone knows what those are, they're basically the peanut butter shot. That's
Nope,
like
no
a
idea.
huge needle and just super thick. Anyways, and so I was getting those, still having some difficulties with my autoimmune, but we all felt like we were in a pretty good place with all of that. And then kind of just similar things, started cramping, wasn't feeling very good, and we just decided, hey, it's time to go to the hospital, but we've made it 34 weeks. We've made it past the 32 weeks. We are in the clear.
Right.
We're going to meet our beautiful boy. And then we got to the hospital, and you can always tell when something's not quite right, but the one person can't tell you that it's not quite right. So we had like a tech come in and say, I can't find the heartbeat for some reason, but who knows why? Like, let's have the doctor come in, double check. I'm newer kind of idea. And so doctor came in and told us that she was unable to find a heartbeat either, and his head wasn't facing the right way, so they had to do a C-section to get him out. And for any of those that know about C-sections, that's just cutting through like 9 different layers till they get to the baby. And so Reagan was born, and he was born still, and he was 7 pounds 7 ounces.
Wow.
So it would have easily been a 10-pound baby.
They said if he went to full term, he would have been about 10 pounds, maybe more.
Man.
And so he just was so beautiful.
And did you guys link up with the same funeral home for him as well?
No, when we gave birth to Zane, that was out in Virginia.
Oh,
and then
okay.
when I had Reagan, we were out here in Utah. And so we actually just got this bear from Build-A-Bear because we wanted to have another bear. And then since Reagan was such a chunky boy, he didn't fit into one urn.
Oh
So
my
we had to get
goodness.
2 urns.
Oh my goodness.
They didn't have one that would fit
They didn't,
him
yeah,
right.
because they either
so-
had those small ones or they had really big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was either the little small ones or just the I don't know, the
adult
regular size ones, right? And
Yeah. Well, my brother-in-law who passed away 2 years ago, on September 12th, he was a big boy. He was 6'4", 300 some pounds, and I think the family had to do like a big adult one and then like a bunch of small ones. And it worked out because he was loved by a lot of people, so like a lot of the family got little urns of him and stuff. So, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so man, so you guys basically have dealt with a lot of the, I think if not all the horrors of pregnancies gone wrong, and it's unfortunate, and our hearts and sympathies are out for you guys, man. That's tough. And I know that's dealt with a lot of stress, a lot of mental health. Do you want to speak on that, Whitney, on like what you went through? Did it affect your guys' marriage at all, or did it bring you guys closer, or at points it probably affected it a little bit? But then you guys are here today, and it's, you guys seem to be very loving and caring still, so that's always good. So obviously you guys overcame a lot of those hurdles. So let's hear your side of things real quick.
Yeah, so I think if anything, it's always brought us closer.
Mhm.
That's one thing I'm really grateful for, that we always, I don't know, check in with each other, and if one's up and the other's down, then we try and help each other back up, and I'm really grateful for that. I know a lot of times it can totally go sideways, but we've always been really good about helping each other. For me, I think the biggest thing was just trying to figure out who I am. I don't know, like I said, I always wanted to be a mom, and so when I couldn't be a mom when I wanted to be a mom, it was just a matter of like, okay, who am I? What am I going to do with my life? Kind of thing, because I had this idea that I was going to have these kids and raise them and then maybe figure something out down the road. And so I've been trying to kind of refine that purpose. And then the other thing for me has just been, I don't know, everyone talks about the grief of losing the child or losing whatever, but for me it was also that losing the future of what could have been. Like holidays are always hard because you just see kids, your nieces, nephews, cousins, all growing up.
And it's probably siblings too. You have siblings, right? So it kind of, and it's nothing against the siblings or how you think or whatever. It's the envy, right? The envious part of it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's, in a way it's survivor's guilt, because then you also hear stories of baby survives and then mom passes, and stuff like that. And man, that's tough. That's a tough burden to have on your end as the the mom of having to lose so many, three kids, right? Three, yeah. So
When we have a nephew who's Levi would be roughly Zane's age, right?
Yeah.
And so that's always been, I don't like saying hard, just like interesting to navigate those emotions because they would only be a few months apart. And so it's always been, it's one of those things where sometimes it's, heck, a while ago they were actually down here, and he actually streamed with me for like 2 hours, and that was a blast. And other days it's like when they come down, I don't even want to be around any of them, let alone
yeah.
I don't want to be around him, let alone anybody else. And
Yeah, and that's the hard part about that too, is like it's not even just with your family, but it could be friends that maybe just recently got had kids and stuff like that, and it's hard. And then like it's rough because like I was saying on a couple of my other podcast episodes that and you can relate to this, Ben, because us as streamers, we have a lot of streaming friends. We have buddies. We grow to know each other, and we can't necessarily always be in everyone's streams. We got this, and we're so wrapped up in our own thing that's going on that and then when we finally talk to each other, we start talking about all the successes we're having and all this thing we're doing. So then, like in your guys' aspect, as a couple, when you guys see other friends that not outside of the content side of things, you got friends that may, oh yeah, well look at it, we just had our baby, blah blah blah. And they don't even think about, maybe they don't even know your story, or they don't even think about that because they're just excited to share what they have. And it's like, and you guys start getting, and you guys probably have those episodes where you're like, really, like, or you're admiring that, and and it sucks, and it sucks to be in that position for you guys. And I was gonna say, maybe the fourth time's a charm. As it seems like as the story goes, you're getting further and further and closer to finally having that child. I honestly would say don't give up. I mean, but at the same time, that's just me being selfish and saying I don't want you guys to give up. But at the same time, I would hate for me to tell you not to give up, and then something else goes wrong again. And like, I just don't want you. It's one of those catch-22s, right? Because I really want to see you guys. I think you guys would be a great. You guys would definitely be a great family if you guys are able to have kids later in the future, and growing up with Pokemon and other things. So, but like I said, our hearts out for you guys. Like it's man, this is an insane story that you guys are telling, and like I said, we're proud and we're humble to know your side of things, Whitney. Is there more that you want to say? I don't mean to interrupt you earlier.
Oh no, that's totally fine. No, I think that's mainly it. I think also just kind of figuring out, I don't know, maintaining that kind of like, I don't know, kind of like you said there, like that positive outlook, and also just that sense of gratitude for what we do have. I know basically had that survivor's guilt, really hated my body for a
Right.
really long time just because I felt like it was betraying me. And so figuring out how I can maintain who I am amidst all of it.
Yeah, it's just that's good that you guys identify that with each other when it comes to communicating, like, yo, I'm not really feeling it today, this and that. And then the other side of the other party is, hey, it's okay, like let's take a break, or let's it's okay to feel that way and talk about it. I mean, not everyone has that person that can do that for them, but it's good that you guys were able to overcome it that way. Was there a time during all this that you had suicidal ideations, the deepest, darkest thoughts of things like that? And if you did, were you able to tell Ben about it right away, or did it take a while, or did you kind of figure out ways to come from that, or was he a big part of your hope and that light that brought you out of that darkest time?
I don't think so right away. If I'll be honest, I don't think I fully understood what suicidal ideation was at the time. And so I think I was experiencing it, but I didn't know what it was. And so I was like, that's a weird thought. But we ended up going to therapy together. And I think that really helped us to open up that communication more and more. And then helped us to realize, like, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, we need to keep this communication open. Because I know, at least for me, I feel like something is way less scary once it has been labeled or something like that. Like,
Right.
hiding it within you is much scarier than finally just saying it and it's out there. And I feel like it loses that power. And so kind of as we talked more, we were just able to kind of figure out how each other grows and grieves. And my grief is different than Ben's grief, and respecting each other for what that grief looks like and honoring each other's journeys through it.
That's awesome. And I forgot to ask you guys, and how old are you guys now?
I'm 27. She's 26.
So yeah, you guys, and then having to deal with this at a young age too. So, and you're currently working on your master's, right, Whitney?
I actually have graduated.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, I'm working at a hospital now.
Oh, nice. Hey, congratulations on that. That's awesome. It's nice to see, like I said, it's nice to hear you guys talk about this. And then overall, there's a lot of disdain. There's a lot of, sadness, the story. But at the end of the day, the positivity of you guys being together still, you guys are growing stronger, growing together, and succeeding in, getting a master's degree. Now you're working at a hospital. And so that's awesome to see you overcoming a lot of things that most people won't be able to survive. And it's because you have somebody there. There's a lot of people that don't survive that because relationships are broken because of their changed mentality, their changed personality and stuff like that, because they can't figure out how to get through it. They can't figure out who to talk to. And then there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, I don't want to talk to them because they're just negative. And it's like, they're negative for a reason, but you have to have sympathy in that heart to be able to just sit down and talk to them and hear them out. So again, Whitney, I know you're struggling with your medical, and I don't want to push too much on you. So thank you so much for your story. Chat's really loving you right now. Sorry, Ben. All right, let's hear Ben's side now. You can just jump right into what you're going through and what you felt and how you overcame all of this and what you're doing today. And I guess this is probably going to start talking about how you started streaming, right?
Yeah, so it's such a hard thing of like where to start with it. We lost Zane, like I said, March of 2020, and I went for 3 months or so till the end of June. It was around my birthday, believing that I was okay. Like obviously the first few weeks after were hard, and we all had, I had my moments, and and then we had our moments together and everything. And then I got to the point where I was like, hey, like I think I'm good, like kind of one of those like I did my grieving and I'm good, right? And the months down the road, we were driving and we were driving for a quick family vacation, and we were just talking about, I think one of us was having a hard day or something, and just kind of talking about the whys. And by the end of that conversation, I was like, Whitney, I'm not okay. And I was like, I'm far from it. And I mean, we had like a 3-hour drive, and I think we had the conversation for the majority of the drive. And I was like, I'm not doing good. I thought I was, and I honestly believed that. And like I'm not. And so it led to, and it was one of those things too, like it was COVID, everything's still shut down. And so what was it we were all doing? We were all playing video games, right? And I was playing a lot on my own. Whitney would play with us. We were big into Smite at the time. Yeah, and it was a blast. We're having a lot of fun. I had a bunch of clips on my Xbox that you just have, right? Oh my gosh, that was so cool. And you clip it and you never look at it again, right? And around this time is when you were on Instagram or TikTok, and you're seeing all these gaming clips all the time, right? Because all of a sudden it was booming. And so I was like, I might just make a page for funsies just to see. So I was posting Warzone clips and Smite clips mainly, an Apex one here or there. And Whitney was like, hey, you should start doing that streaming thing. And we had streamed, actually, I forgot to mention this, we streamed a bit together for a little bit on Twitch. We streamed Fortnite together.
Okay.
But it was just on Wi-Fi over my Xbox, and it
no camera,
and it just the Wi-Fi didn't hold it well. I knew nothing.
Right.
I still know nothing about bitrate and stuff, and it just didn't last very long, right? But I was still posting some clips, and it was fun. And she was like, you just like start streaming, and I was like, I don't have a computer or anything, and she just kept like egging me to do it, and I was like, I don't know how, right? And so for that Christmas, she surprised me with my computer.
Oh, nice. Laptop or a desktop?
A desktop.
Oh, nice.
And so her and our two friends who we gamed with all the time colluded against me.
Nice.
Or not against me, I should say colluded without me.
Yeah.
And surprised me with a computer for Christmas. And then it was like a month or two after that, I started streaming. And it was crazy because at that point in time, I didn't really feel like I had.
This is 2020, right?
This is
2021.
End of 2020, beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
I just felt like I didn't really have much of a purpose at all, because for me, the time we lost the baby, I was, we were in college. I was actually playing college tennis out there, and that was supposed to be my last season. And so it was one of those things where I just say, me personally, lost a lot during COVID. All in the same week, I learned that my college tennis career was over unless I was able to go back, and because they gave us the year back. So unless I was able to go back, my college tennis career was over, and I wasn't going to be a father anymore, and just the list kind of goes on and on with that, right? Just kind of steamrolls. And so at this point, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I didn't feel like I had really much of a purpose at all. I was just kind of, as I've said throughout the years, kind of floating through space, bouncing off asteroids, going whichever direction, right? And my first stream was exactly 6 hours long, and that night was the best I had felt since losing the baby. I've said it a lot, but I've felt more purpose in streaming than I even did with like playing tennis my whole life. Whether it was in high school or collegiately, streaming gave me more of a purpose and a feeling like that more than that did.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, when you're playing school sports, you may be on a team, but more or less it's more about you because you're trying to get to the next level. You're trying to focus on this. There's really no community. I mean, there is. You got people that are your fan base, or you got your, that are there, but you're not really interacting and engaging with them as much as you are on streaming. And I feel like
for tennis, because tennis is, unless you're playing doubles, tennis is a very
solo
individual sport.
Right.
And so, I mean, I still talk to a lot of my teammates, and actually a few of them I actually grew up with, which was just happenstance, especially growing up in Utah and going to school in Virginia. That was just a happenstance thing, right? But yeah, like at the end of that stream, I felt like I had more purpose than I had with playing tennis, and that's what's motivated me to keep going with it, especially on the hard days.
And so with streaming starting up because of all the losses you've had, is there what's your purpose with the streaming? Is you're saying, is it bringing uplifting content, positive content, engaging with people that may be having mental health, depression, stuff like that, or is there something else that I may have missed in that?
I think my goal has always just been to just bring that uplifting content. Just be a safe space for people.
Yeah.
Right. Because especially on Facebook, I didn't really start like blowing up until Pokemon actually.
Thank you, Whitney.
Of course.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. And so like I was lucky, like we were talking about before. I was lucky with algorithms and stuff where I bounced around from game to game and done really well. I mean, I started streaming Smite and Warzone, and then moved on to like really just Warzone, and then there was an indie like loot and shoot game called Scavengers, it's kind of like a Tarkov kind of a deal. Grinded that a lot, went over to Splitgate, and then then GTA roleplay. That was a lot of fun. So I've been everywhere under the sun before I settled on Pokemon, and I still have active community members who found me through Warzone at the beginning, and so I've been very fortunate to keep a lot of those people as I've bounced around, especially with Pokemon, and just as well just through communities that I was a part of and still am a part of. Like I remember once Chadwick rated me because I've actually known Chadwick since I started, if you know who Chad is.
Yeah.
I've known Chad since he had 10 viewers.
The most professional gamer.
The most professional. He is that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chad's actually a big inspiration to me watching him grow. But I've known Chad since he only had 10, 15 viewers or less, and I watched him blew up and everything. But
yeah, I remember that. It was like 1 second he was 10, 15 viewers, and the next thing you know, he's like 400 viewers. I'm like, holy crap, what the heck happened?
It was wild, bro.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and that's a whole different thing.
It was it was a 0-kill win that got him there, because he got there was like an article about him from Dexerto or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It was his solo duo no kill win that did it.
Yeah.
He had a few before that that had done well, a couple 100,000 views.
But he was the first one to do 0-kill wins. That's where, which is amazing, because before peak it was him.
Yep. And so he actually he's rated me a couple times, because he would do supporter nights on the evenings I was streaming, and so he rated me, and like whoever was like, oh my gosh, like I was playing I think it was a ROM hack of an older retro game, so it still had the Pokemon Silver and Gold or Red and Blue graphics, right? So just super pixely, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this in 20 years, right? And I've still kept people from Chad's community in my streams. Actually, if you know Trisha from his streams, we've actually had lunch with Trisha before they moved.
I know of him. I've been in his streams. I follow him on Facebook, but I've been in his streams a few times, but I never never got super involved in his community. I kind
Mhm.
of just lurked a little bit. It was just dope to watch him do the different challenges that he was doing.
Yeah, and so I got very lucky to keep a lot of people from the Warzone or other FPS communities as I've transitioned, and then kind of stayed on Pokemon. And people love, especially when I was doing my late night streams. I knew people who love just lurking to the Pokemon vibes.
Yeah.
And
My
and
kid would
just
probably
to-
love to watch your Pokemon streams. Fortunately, he has to go to bed.
Yeah, right. And it's like, and that's been part of my thing too, especially on Facebook. Like, my nieces and nephews watch my streams. And so my goal was for me to keep things clean, primarily family friendly and different things like that. And people love that. And so
Yeah.
I just started getting DMs or even messages in chat being like, hey, today is super sucked for me, but this is your positivity, help me get through it, or different things. Like people just really really liked those, just really, I don't know, soft chill Pokemon vibes from that.
You know, it's interesting too, because my son was the reason why was part of the reason why I started streaming, because that's when I found out about streamers and they make money and this and that. Obviously, it's not a lot of money, but being naive about the whole business and how it worked, I was like, oh man, that could be like a little side hustle for me, this and that. And also get my wife off my back for playing video games too much. And and so, but he was watching YouTube of people playing Pokemon or playing Mario games or Luigi's Mansion. And I'm like, dude, you have this game, like just play the game. Like, why are you watching somebody else play the game? He's like, well, Dad, I'm trying to figure out how to get to the next level. I'm like, oh. Because as a kid for myself, because I'm 30, so I'm like 10 years older than you guys, and so when I grew up as a kid, we had I don't know if you guys may have grown up on the back end of actual paperback strategy guides.
Well, I still very very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you guys were like on the back end right before YouTube became a really like a big thing. And so I used to go to Kmart and rip out pages from strategy guides and go home and try to beat the next level that way, And so when my kid told me that, I was like, no way. So that reminded me, because you're talking about with kids and family friendly or whatever. I mean, YouTube, being able to just post your own strategy on how to beat the final four or beat a gym leader, stuff like that, and what you've done, your strategy would be great content to post as long form on YouTube, because especially for the kids section, that'll probably blow up a lot, especially because you play all the different versions of the different Pokemons. And so, hell, there may be even a need for some of the retro Pokemon games on there. I don't know if there's a lot of strategy guides or your type of your specific strategy on how things go, because that'll definitely hit the kids section really well too, I think.
Yeah, and that's been the interesting thing, is that because I do primarily like more ROM hack stuff, and so it's people hack into the game and where I make it different or significantly more difficult or things like that. And so that's like, for a lot of us creators who do that, a lot of people watch us because of that. It's not so
Okay.
much it's actually mostly adults. Like, hey, I've been playing this
Hey.
super hardcore Pokemon game and I can't beat this guy. How did you do it?
Right. My kid would come to me and be like, Dad, I need to figure out how to hack this thing for Roblox and this. I'm like, no, bro, we don't cheat. I was like, I didn't think anything of it. Like, I was like, okay, because I didn't know about I have a buddy that's like big into modding, like Skyrim and stuff like that. And so it's essentially what you're talking about. And like, I didn't know much about stuff like that. And like, I always thought modding was like hacking, because I thought it was people that were changing the game to have a upper hand on things. But I didn't know that they're changing the game to improve the game mechanics or improve the game specifically, for whatever maybe the reason. And so when he was bringing that up to me, I was like, nah, hell no, man, we don't cheat, bro. We do things the right way, and he was like, all right, Dad, you're right. Cheating's bad, whatever. And he was like 6 or 7 at the time, So it was pretty dope. It was pretty funny when I then I realized what he was talking about. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. Well, like, I have an example for that. Like, a game that I just finished playing through for the second time was called Elite Redux. Pokemon Elite Redux, and it's based off of Gen 3, and so the Hoenn region.
Right.
So like Pokemon Emerald or Ruby Sapphire.
Yeah.
And the fun part with it is that, one, the difficulty was significant. It was really, really high, so it was really, really hard. But then the modder, the hacker who created it, added 4 abilities. And so each Pokemon has 4 abilities versus just the one, which all did different things. So a clip that I posted was in the Elite Four. There was one Pokemon who swept one trainer without even getting touched, just because of all the different abilities that were in play. And so my opponent couldn't even touch me, and I just absolutely annihilated their team.
I think I was in your stream a couple weeks ago where you're fighting something that you're trying to figure out the weakness, because the ones that normally would have been the weakness, you couldn't do anything to them. And then so that was interesting to see. That makes sense now. Now that I was like, dude, this dude's like got a level 70 fucking Pokemon and he can't beat this. I was like, what the heck is going on? That makes sense now.
Yep. And so it's like in your main games, you can go through and beat the game with really just 6 Pokemon or less, even. Right. For Elite Redux, in my first playthrough, I caught a lot of Pokemon just to see all their different abilities, but I think I had like 30. I caught a total of like 35, 40 Pokemon, and I'd used over half of them throughout the playthrough.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm that guy that's like, I'll go through like the first 6 that I get, and I'll just run them through, and unless there's a Pokemon I really want, like I'll run those original ones until I get to that point where I get those Pokemon, then I'll level them up, and then I'm like, what do I do now? Now that I beat the game, what do I do now?
Yeah, and so even on this specific game, like I'm at the 8th gym, the last gym, and I had to go back to like one of the first areas and catch a Pokemon there, train it up, and use it just for that gym.
Right.
Just because my other mons I had weren't working, and so it's been interesting seeing how it's not just the vanilla stuff like you commonly like your kids play, right? But this is full on, and that's been hard too, tying it back into like mental health stuff. I've really struggled with having to learn about all of this, and that's been hard for me to figure out. Like typically, like this game, Elite Redux, I typically don't play the hardcore games because they really piss me off, and I don't like being pissed and depressed on stream.
Right.
And there was actually one game I played. I'm actually playing through it again, but I played it over a year ago, and I had to stop playing it because it was like making me so mad. It was like making my depression worse and stuff. Like,
okay.
I had to take a break because I was getting so upset and frustrated that like it just was hard. It was really frustrating.
That's how I feel about like Dark Souls.
Yep.
I couldn't get past that first, like, just that intro, like, level. I was like, I'm done playing this game. Like, I kept getting one shot. I'm like, how is it that this hard? Just the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and so it took me about, I think, 4 or 5 months just to beat this game, or maybe longer, because I just had to take so many breaks because I couldn't get past a certain part. It would piss me off, and I'd be done.
Right.
And so that's been, especially with the trauma that we've been through, one of the hardest things for me is I get really frustrated really, really easily, especially if I can't figure out something, even simple stuff.
And beforehand, you didn't get that way?
Yeah, and so even something as simple as like trying to learn how to do a like very basic editing for videos, I still have a really hard time with. And so it's one of the reasons why I have a hard time putting out a lot of clips, is because it's hard for me to sit down and learn how to do a proper, in loose quotes, a proper edit.
Now,
because I have this vision in my brain of what I want to do with it, and I have a hard time doing it. It irritates me within just a few minutes, and I have to stop.
If it makes you feel better, I go through the same thing. There's I have this vision on like this Warzone clip that I want to do, and this and that, and I go and I look up YouTube videos, and they're showing me how to do it, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, why isn't it working? And I find out that it's just the software. But yeah, no, I go through the same thing. Like I'm like, oh man, that, like, I see a video, I'm like, dude, how do I do that? And then I figure it out, but then I can't figure out how to do it in the software, and I get the same way. It's frustrating. So then that's why, if you notice, my clips have been really more generic and just kind of simple than doing over editing or doing these extra special effects. But yeah, no, I get that totally.
And so yeah, like I'm and like my community knows. I mean, I know some have been lurking in the stream too, where they know our story. And so, and then I'm very open with like, hey guys, I'm not streaming tonight because, today I sucked.
Right.
Woke up, just absolute crap mentally and yada. I'm pretty open with like what's going on, especially with seasonal depression season starting. That's been kicking my trash the last week and a half or so.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I kind of was motivated to start doing this podcast, because just like with veterans too, like we go through the seasonal depression because we've got battle buddies that are downrange, or I was downrange for Christmas one year. The first Christmas I was downrange was 2017, 2018. I was in Kuwait, and that was actually the first Christmas I was away from family, and especially with my kids. It was the first deployment I've been on with my kids, and so it was rough. So yeah, that's another reason why, because I know it's not just veterans that deal with the seasonal depression. Is we got everyone else that does it as well for their own reasons, and I kind of want to make this. That's why I do this. Is to help people understand that it's easier to talk about it than it looks or than it seems. It's just you have to have a platform. You have to have something that shows,
Yeah.
the sympathy and the sincere genuinity of the conversation. And I think it helps people kind of get over. So the question I had for you was your attitude and how easily short fused it can be now when you get frustrated happened after all the trauma you guys have endured. Do you feel, or has a therapist told you that maybe that's the underlying grief you have, and it's bleeding into everything else that's going on? And it sounds like it's something out of your control in a sense of you're thinking. And again, I'm no professional. I'm just kind of, this is just a question that I
Yeah.
thought about. And so,
Yeah.
do you think that you might be? It could either, because I know as a guy, we tend to take on a lot of the responsibility, the blame, and this and that, even though it may not be our fault, essentially for anything. It could be any situation. But do you feel like in the back of your head, you may be thinking that you want to solve this problem, you want to fix this issue, so that way you and Whitney can have a baby, but there's nothing you can do about it, but you're still struggling to figure out the solution for it, and you can't. So then, in a way, you're kind of now pushing it on to other things that you're doing in life that you can't figure out, that is absolutely a lot more in your control. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. I feel like that kind of ties into it.
I don't think it's specifically that. I think it was more like kind of like the first half of that question, where something that I say a lot about it when people ask me, like how are you doing? Like when my parents or ask or whoever, I always say it's the hardest part has been the trauma of the trauma. It's dealing with because I mean I already struggle with anxiety and depression before, nothing crazy, right? And so it's been dealing with the heightened anxiety and heightened depression. Like once during COVID, when we moved back from Virginia, we were living with my parents, and we were really wanting to move out, live in our own place, right? And I couldn't even talk about moving without having a panic attack. Even thinking about it would just start making me sweat and get that anxiety jitters, and it would even just thinking I would start me into a panic attack. And so it was dealing with that, and then it was dealing with there's imposter syndrome with streaming that we all have, but there was a heightened sense of that on some days. And just as I keep saying, it's the trauma from the trauma. I say I think as far as the losses go, I'm at a pretty, or I should say, as a level ground as you can be on when with the loss, right? It's the hardest part. One of the hardest parts has been dealing with the trauma of the trauma.
And did you have throughout the whole situation, did you deal with suicidal ideations, or was it only at one point you had more so than the others, or you kind of started dealing with that later on after the third time?
I think I noticed it more. It's like the answer is yes. I noticed it more after the loss of our third, so the one last year. And it was just something as simple as like I'd be walking the dogs and trying to cross the street. They're excited to be out because we lived in an apartment, and both our dogs are pretty hyper, so very excited to be outside. And so they're freaking out, right? And so trying to cross the street sometimes was a little bit crazy because there's cars coming, they're just, and they know their route and they want to go. And so it'd be a time where I'd be crossing and there'd be a car coming, and literally just be like, hey, I wouldn't be mad if this car hit me.
Wow. Yeah.
Kind of a thing. It's like I'm not going, I'm going to keep walking. So it wasn't like I was suicidal per se, but it was, if this car hit me and I wouldn't have to go to work, or wouldn't have to be responsible. It's kind of like I wouldn't be mad, or if I'm driving and I almost get hit, it would be, that wouldn't be a bad thing. And that was a scary thing to start recognizing, was that I was like, holy crap, like I'm actually having these. And so that was wild. And I know, at least for me, it took me, like Whitney was saying, it took me a few days to kind of come to an understanding or recognizing of what was going on.
And how did you recognize it? What did you do? Or like, it was just something that just kind of like, oh my God, like what the heck am I thinking? Or did someone kind of bring it up to you?
And I mean, I had friends who had committed suicide, and friends who had attempted and failed, and so something like suicide wasn't a super foreign thing to me. It was the fact of like, holy crap, this is happening to me. And so it was something when I think when I fully realized what was happening, I was pretty quick to start trying to figure it out, because I was like, I do not want this to get worse. And
shortly after that, when did you start talking to Whitney about it, or did you go see a therapist first then?
I was actually already in therapy at that time, and I can't remember if I started recognizing it when he had said something, or maybe it was on Whitney. I don't remember specifically. I think it was when Whitney started talking to me about hers, where it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm having similar thoughts.
Right.
Or I'd had similar thoughts in the past, and it was one of those things where it was only on my bad days. Woke up just feeling awful and like, yeah, I wouldn't mind if this happened, right? And so, yeah, I think it was, if I recall correctly, I think it was when she started talking to me about hers. I was like, wait, like, hang on, I'm having similar struggles. Like, it's kind of like, well, like, what the heck? Like,
it's one of those things where like the wake up call is like, holy crap, I'm not alone, and which is what the message we're trying to push on this too. Is like, no one's alone, and just you may be alone in the moment, but once you start talking about it, you'll find out that other people are having similar things going on.
Yeah.
When it comes to mental health, I can't say situations are similar. But I mean, there are similar people that are that have probably dealt to an extent what you guys have gone through. But when it comes to suicidal or mental awareness, you're no one's alone when it comes to that. It's just a matter of who you can talk to about it.
And that's been the crazy thing with both of our journeys, is because ever since our first miscarriage in 2019, we've been pretty open about everything. Because like Whitney said, we discovered that it was like one in 4 pregnancies and a miscarriage. We were just like, okay, like why aren't people talking about this?
Yeah,
we were just like, holy cow, like this is insane. And so Whitney started sharing her journey with the miscarriage pretty early on, and kind of her struggles with that, and then same with losing Zane. And she's had friends who have messaged her and be like, I've had one miscarriage I've been at, years ago, and I've had no idea what to think about it, and like not even my parents know, and
yeah.
or my spouse doesn't know even. I just know that I've had it. And you're talking with Whitney, they've gone to the point where they're in that same boat of like being super open about it and sharing their journey, and it's been able to help them heal. We've had friends who have dealt with infertility who were in the same boat, didn't know what to do or how to feel, and now then they started going to therapy and things like that. I've had people in streams, because I'm very open about my struggles and our journey, and I've had men in chat who are like, hey, we lost a baby around the same time as you guys, and I've had no idea what to do.
Yeah, and it's amazing that there's communities out there that are like really coming together and sharing their experiences and stuff like that. And that's the thing. There's a lot of people that don't even realize that.
Well, it's crazy, because when you look into resources for carriages or loss of a child, everything goes towards the mothers.
Yeah.
There isn't anything for fathers.
Right, because the culture is, it's the woman's body, and don't get me wrong, like I don't mean that in a way that's like, obviously, because cancel culture nowadays, right? But what I'm saying is like, I'm trying to touch on the point that you're making is like, a lot of these are built upon getting women together, because obviously they go through the majority of all that. Granted, without the understanding that men still have, I mean, obviously if they're worth their salt, they have those emotional connections as well. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so I've had people messaging me, and they can say the same thing, women were saying to Whitney, be like, my wife had a miscarriage years ago, and I haven't known how to deal with it because there isn't resources as a man, or like my wife lost a baby at 20 weeks, and just like same stuff. And so it's been crazy talking to them and just like kind of comparing notes almost of what have we done as husbands and fathers and everything of how to deal with that. And then just even in general, I've been open about my mental health in general. I've been able to talk community members down from suicide.
That's awesome. That's awesome on your part. That's it's unfortunate for those, but it's great that they're opening up to you.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier too, people have come into streams and been just like, yeah, today was awful. Here's why, and have expressed how grateful they are for the vibes of the stream and the vibes of chat and how understanding everybody was and different things like that. So I've had streams where it's just been everyone just like basically venting, including myself.
Yeah,
it starts with someone coming in like, hey, my grandpa I was close with for my whole life just passed away, last week, and I've been really struggling today, and someone else comes and goes, oh my gosh, like, or I'm so sorry, okay, yada yada yada, and it just turns into this big conversation about all of our struggles, and it's been crazy what we've learned about everybody. I think that's helped all of us bond as a community more.
Yeah, I agree.
It's been really cool.
I think it definitely helps build that community, because we always talk about, we started streaming to build a community, to engage with followers and viewers, and like there's a lot of people out there that are have been streaming for around the same time we have, and are longer, and in their community, and there's a lot of them that are like less fortunate when it comes to growth and engagement and stuff like that, that are at the same time frame as we've been going. And they wonder, because like, what are they doing wrong, this and that? Well, they're not doing things like this, or opening it up to the community to say, hey, because there's a lot of stigma in this industry as well when it comes to trauma dumping in people's streams. And so especially the bigger streamers, and I say bigger, I mean anybody who's got one follower more than me is bigger than me, because I don't really want to be just specific, because I understand why they don't want people trauma dumping, because here's the thing. When you got Stone Mountain's chat, you got Nick Merck's chat that's just going like, and you try to trauma dump in there, you think it's going to be seen by anybody? No, because their chat's just continuously going, right? But then you go into somebody's stream like ours, where there's not very many chatters that aren't really like texting in there, and you trauma dump immediately. Obviously, if you're not a part of the community, like, I'll still accept it, but at the same time, be like, yo, it'd be great for you to kind of like, because I don't want people doing is trying to play that sympathy card. And then next, 5 minutes later, after we acknowledge them, they're in my DMs like, "Oh, can I get $5 for a burger?" Like, because now they play the, I mean, we don't need that shit, but we've been fortunate to utilize this platform to have these conversations, and I think I've gotten more community members talking to each other now than I have the first 2.5 years of my streaming career, and getting to know each other, and then more people are coming in and being welcomed in, and then some, more people that I just met last week come into these streams, and they start talking about their depression, and it's okay, because that's what this is for. Even my day-to-day streams are for that as well. If it's absolutely necessary, right? If it's something that you just can't hold in anymore and they don't have anywhere to go, I'm perfectly fine with that. But you got all these other creators that are, oh no, we don't like that. It's not the it's just gonna bring the vibes down or whatever. I'm like, okay. Like, to me, I'm like, so what? Like, they're reaching out to you for a reason, and I've always told people, if you think about somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, whatever may be the case, pick up the phone and call them. I think that's going to help save more lives than anything, because maybe that was the reason why you needed to call them, because they're thinking there's nobody there that could talk to them, or that and so I think opening your channel to people that are coming in and just wanting to vent is perfect, is awesome. It helps people grow. It helps your community grow and get to know each other a lot better.
And I attribute my success on Facebook to me being human. Facebook was awesome because it was kind of like Twitter and a streaming platform all in one, right?
Yeah.
I treated my gaming page like I would my personal page. I posted everything upon anything. I really wasn't shy about much of anything about myself, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knew, how work was going and what I did. Everyone knew if me and Whitney did something cool. Everyone knew if I was having a crappy day, if Whitney was having a crappy day. And Facebook's algorithm worked a lot with engagement, right? And so I started getting a lot of engagement on my posts until streams just started blowing up. But I've attributed it to a lot. I mean, a few different things, but one of them was just the fact that I was human on my page.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people on Twitter now too. I'm like, everyone's like, why am I not growing on these platforms? Like, well, look at it. And I scroll through their page. I'm like, it literally everything is just about gaming stuff. I was like, don't be shy. Be a person, because especially with how saturated the industry is now, you have to be different to grow. I've been trying to be better about at least having some form of like content related stuff on my Twitter, especially since Twitter's algorithm is much more pickier than Facebook's, it seems. Sometimes, but Facebook especially, I treat it like my own Facebook page. And Twitter, I've tried to do the same, but Twitter is... Well, and that's been my struggle with Twitter, because when I was on Facebook, I didn't really see, I say in quotes, a need for Twitter, because Facebook was everything all in one.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I had it set up, but I didn't really I wasn't involved in it right away.
Yeah, and so but Twitter is much more of there's more keyboard warriors in that sense on Twitter than on Facebook. On Facebook, I could get away with.
Well, because we haven't made it yet. We haven't made it on Facebook yet. That's why we don't get the keyboard warriors in our comments.
Yeah, and so it's like versus like on Twitter, it's like I've had to be careful because I will yell at everyone about and I'll call people out about being stupid. And just like be like, yo, like this makes no sense and yada yada yada. And it's like then people will come and attack me about my stuff. And so I've been trying to learn like what I want to do for Twitter because I feel like I've had a harder time being a human on Twitter than I did on Facebook. And so it's like it's been, especially just how the gaming community in general on Twitter is right now. It's been hard to, it's like I talk about, I mean, luckily I haven't had it happen to me, but I actually had it happen once on Instagram, on my personal page, actually. I was in some stupid argument just trolling a keyboard warrior. He actually deleted his comment, but we were talking about just some medical stuff, and I made a comment about how stupid I thought ERs were.
Yeah.
And it was just about how we were treated there for one night. And at the time my personal page on Instagram was public. And so he went and saw the post where I made the post about one of our losses. And it was obviously in a hospital room and stuff. I think what he did is he went and commented and mentioned how I was in the hospital. Then I think he realized that, one of our babies died. So
right.
he went and deleted the comment. And ever since then, I've had to be careful about, or I've been more careful about how I've posted stuff. And I think just on Facebook, I've been fortunate to not have people bite back at me. But
right.
the few that have, people have learned that I will yell at you about stuff.
Yeah.
And on top of that, community members will yell at you about it too.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, like I was saying earlier about your friends, doing something in life that, you're envious of because of, trauma or past, issues that you've had or whatever. Like it causes, they're just like all up in their own world and they don't realize that, it could come off as bragging, knowing that you went through stuff like that. But then you also have the other side of things of people coming into your life that have nothing to do with your life or know anything about your life, making assumptions and causing more problems for no reason. And then sometimes once you kind of tell them, it's almost like, as a kid, we'd grow up and we'd say your mama jokes. And then like one time you tell them, you do a yo mama joke. And then that kid's like, dude, my mom just died like last week. You're like, oh fuck, and it's
there was in a Pokemon Facebook group, there was given this was dark humor, but there was this Pokemon that was released in the new game, Scarlet and Violet, where there's like 4 of them. There's these 4 little mouse. They're called Mouseholds, I think. That's how I really don't know how it's pronounced. And it was the joke on the tweet was about like losing babies.
Oh wow.
And naturally there was a lot of comments in that post where they were just like, okay, like that's way too far, right? And yada yada yada. And others were just like, everyone complaining is stupid because that's the point of dark humor. And I remember I think that was the first time on my gaming page that I really let rip on somebody, where I was just like, look, like I greatly appreciate dark humor much like anybody else, especially as like a content creator and a person. But I was like, but you need to realize your audience in this group, and went on about my story. And then that post ended up kind of blowing up on that thread a little bit.
Right. Well, it's almost like people were going at BB Jess for making the pregnancy joke, and it was actually discussing the how much time is left before Christmas, but the way they worded it made it sound like they were pregnant, and people.
I actually blocked her after that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that are going after that, and so like to each their own. I mean, dark humor is dark humor, but to each their own. Everyone has their taste, right, and their perspectives, and when it hits too close to home, people need to understand too. Like you gotta watch your audience. Now it makes sense.
Well, and even then, it's one thing that I've been big on since our losses is people need to take a step back and think about what they're gonna post.
Yeah, I mean, I've also unfollowed people for making those stupid jokes about the submarine a few months back, or how was it almost a year back now? I think it was, or whatever. And it was jokes like right after it all happened. I'm like, that's kind of like that's too soon. I know I've made my jokes about Kobe, and that's just because that was some of the content that I did. I was flying a helicopter in Caldera, and I threw the helicopter with people in it. I said Kobe, but that was a year later, but at the same time, like that was also me just trying to test the water to see if I'm gonna get hate for it or if it's gonna blow up, because at the time TikTok was big on like dark humor type content, and so I didn't have any ill intent with it, but there was ill intent because I was trying to get views off of it. And it's like, well, that was kind of dumb on my part. It was funny, but at the same time, it's not funny at the cost of somebody else's situation.
Yeah, there's a different, like with the sub, for example, there's a difference of making a meme about how it happened versus making fun of the people that died. You know, it was really funny seeing the irony of that they used some million-old Logitech controller to drive the sub, and how that controller had, or at least it looked like that controller, right? There's a difference about joking about that versus like actually joking about the fact that people died, right? And it's like I'm all for, like I said, I'm all for dark humor, and you'll hear me spill it on stream or in comments and stuff. But there's a difference of, like I was saying, like, you know, you need to think about the jokes that you're making, because like with that stuff about BB Jess, or there was someone, I forgot his name. There was someone on where his kick was exploding, and it was a guy who was kind of one of the pioneers of it on Twitter, at least, and he and his wife made a joke about it, and it received similar backlash. It was like, hey, like, you need to think about these jokes that you're making. You know, it's all fun and games to do a joke about something. Making a joke about something like pregnancy is a step too far, especially when you've been through what we have or what others have been through. I mean, there's women who can't even have kids because of.
Here's the thing too, is like, and it seems to be like a double-edged sword or a double standard. Now let's turn the tables a little bit. What if BB just had dealt with some of the similar situations you guys have? Would you have been more? Do you think people would have been more lenient on her, and like, you know, because she's been through it type of thing? Okay, so you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it all goes down to how they reacted towards it. You know, I mean, heck, I've even had a couple times where there was one post I made about our kids, and someone took it as like a pregnancy announcement.
Oh.
And like that, and it was, I mean, I read through it and I was like, okay, if you just skim through the long, you know, numerous paragraph posts, it's like, okay. But it was like, that was something that triggered me. You know, it was because someone, they were like, oh my gosh, congratulations. And it was someone who was pretty active in chat, and it was one of those things like, hey, like, you one, you didn't read through the post, but two, you don't really know like what we have gone through and how that could be so
right,
terrifying.
Right. I guess we can go back to the topics a little bit, right? So, did you guys have a supportive circle going through all this stuff? Did you guys utilize that if you guys did? And who mainly was it? Was it like parents and friends, or just, you know, immediate family members?
I mean, from both sides of our family, we've had numerous people who have had miscarriages, and so that was, you know, kind of just what it was, right? But when we lost Zane, it kind of became an everybody kind of a deal. And like living with my parents was kind of hard because we were all grieving.
Right.
You know, that was going to be their first grandchild, and it's like that was hard, and so there was, and of course it was COVID, so that was hard too, and so that was what it was, and so it was one of those things that helped us recognize how loved we really were by everybody, right? And so we had a lot of family and a lot of friends who really came together for that. And then with Reagan, that was interesting because it shows a lot of how close and important a community is. Like I had a command, like of course everyone in chat knew that Whitney was pregnant. I actually had a command that would update, or at least I would go update a command that updated the pregnancy.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And so it was like, you know, the baby is this many weeks along, and
similar to the size of whatever fruit or vegetable.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And so everyone would come in. I mean, I'll say especially the women or the females who would be like, oh my gosh, how's Whitney doing? They didn't care about me. It was all about how Whitney and the baby were doing, which is fair.
Right.
And, you know, and at that time we were living in like a glorified studio apartment. So it was a very small 1-bedroom. And so everyone saw Whitney on stream, and she would come on and talk about it. And then when we learned when Reagan passed, it was actually crazy that the night that we learned that we lost him, I was actually streaming. So at that time I was streaming till about midnight every night. I actually ended stream because Whitney texted me saying she thought she was thinking that she might be going into labor.
Right.
And so it's like, if you go rewatch that VOD, I don't think I specifically said it, but I was like, hey, I gotta get off. You know, like Whitney's not feeling good, I think is what I said. You know, and she's wanted me to come to bed. It was like I hopped off and over. I was like, hey, are you going into labor? Kind of a thing. So I actually ended stream early because of that. And then, you know, and then the whole night happened, and I posted the next morning kind of saying, you know, what happened. And it was crazy because it made me realize that it wasn't just us that lost a baby. You know, and it wasn't just my family or Whitney's family, right? There were community members who
We're a part of it.
Not only felt the loss because of me or because of us, but because they were invested in that journey with us.
Right.
And so it was a loss for them too.
Which is kind of in line with like suicide too, because I always bring up the whole, you know, each of us is a tree trunk, and our branches are the associations and relationships we make with everyone that we get involved with. When we commit suicide, all those branches die out, and that relationship, you know, everyone's affected by it.
And so, yeah, like that was something that was wild. I mean, we had people finding Whitney's personal page and DMing her, being just like, hey, like, you know, I'm a big lurker in EasyMac streams, but I just want you to know that, you know, we're thinking of you, we're praying for you, and, you know, things like that. And I was getting DMs on my personal page, on my gaming page. And so it was one of those things that really helped me recognize like what kind of a community that we had built, because it wasn't just us that had lost a baby. And same thing when people have come in the chat and have said, hey, I've had people come in and be like, hey, I've been just kind of on that end where I'm thinking about ending things, and everyone's like, hey, like, what the heck? Like, you've become a close friend to me in Max streams, like, what are you doing, you know, and different things like that. And so it's like people kind of being just like, no, like you are not gonna leave me, kind of a thing, right? And this is someone who lives on the other side of the country, you know, and they're just like, I need you in chat, dude, like, and so it's just been moments like that where it's just helped us realize that not only the community that we've built, but the family. And I think that's why I've always said we. I don't think I've very few times I've said that I'm going live. It's always a we.
Right. Makes
Whether
sense.
it's me and Whitney, or I'm referring to me and the community.
All right, brother. That's all I have, man. Unless you have anything more you wanna add or touch on, we can do that. Other than that, the topics that I had for you and Whitney, we went through them, and your guys' story is a sad story, but it's amazing the outcome, what you guys have overcome, what you guys have endured, and what you guys continue to do. And we appreciate your guys' time. We're proud of you guys, of what you guys have done with you know, her graduating school, still continuing that, getting a job at the hospital, with you continuing your content creating career, opening up your community to, you know, mental health awareness, and letting them know that like it's a safe space, you know, and continuing to thrive and trying to push that Pokemon agenda on Kick. Keep doing that. It's going to be seen. Hopefully you get the category for that. We love you. We appreciate you. If you have any closing comments, you're more than welcome to say it.
I think is overall, just know that you're not alone. You know, no matter how crazy of like, no matter how nutso life is for you, how crazy or whatever, you're not the only one who's gone through it. Your feelings will always be different, how you react. That's why it's always bad to say. It's not like bad to say, but it's like you be careful saying like, I know how it feels, because someone could go through the same thing and have it be totally different, but someone else has gone through it too. Oftentimes it's just not talked about. And so make sure that you're the one make sure to be the one to talk about it, because you never know what lives will change.
Same for you guys. Listen, you know, you got the Dominator Nation Alien Army here for you guys. If you guys ever need anything, you know, just know that during, you know, these next couple months, it's gonna be really rough for everyone that's involved, or everyone that's, you know, going through some of the similar things, or even other things that are going on. Just know that we're all here for you guys, and also your community. We'd love to have you guys over anytime in, you know, the streams, or we'll try to see if we can raid you out if you're still online live. But just know that, you know, keep your head up. I wouldn't give up. Don't give up.
Never.
Don't give up hope, man. And if it doesn't happen, there's other ways, you know, as well. Look at those resources. We strongly encourage you guys to continue seeing, you know, the therapists. That's awesome that you guys are doing that. It's strong. That's brave. Again, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We're proud of you. And we definitely appreciate you guys coming on here and telling us your story.
Appreciate you doing this, man. Really do.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad it's helping me as much as it helps you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.